All right. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Shonda Harris. I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus Small Business Administration, and we'd like to welcome you to today's webinar. Today, we are really excited to be putting on our second webinar in our Ohio Business Matchmaker webinar series, and we are grateful that you joined us. If this is your first time joining us in this series of webinars, this webinar series is, we put it on to assist small businesses that are looking to do business with the government and ultimately looking to participate in our Ohio Business Matchmaker, which will be taking place May 3rd and May 4th. If you want more information about that, we'll put the registration link in the chat. Also, we kicked off this webinar series last week, last Wednesday, with making the most of the matchmaker. So you can get a good feel for what the matchmaker is like, what you should be preparing for. So we'll also give you access to that. But this morning, again, we do want to welcome you. If you're a small business, we are really excited about helping our small businesses as you are growing your sales, growing your capacity. If you're doing business at the local level, if you're doing business in the private sector and you're looking to grow your sales with government contracting, the federal, state, or local government is a great way for you to do that. And the business matchmaker is a great opportunity for you to participate in an event. So we want to give you a little bit more information on how you can do that. And so this webinar series and the Ohio Business Matchmaker, we've been doing it for about 16 years, and it's a collaborative effort amongst a variety of different agencies and partners. And so we do want to welcome one of our partners to kind of give you an overview about Apex accelerators and what they can do to assist you if this is your first time joining us and if this is your first time getting acclimated with government contracting sales. So I'd like to welcome the statewide Apex manager, one of our resource partners and one of the collaborators for this event, Mr. Joey Scott, and he's going to give you an overview of the Apex accelerators and how they can assist your small business. Joey?
Thank you, Shonda. Good morning, everyone. As Shonda mentioned, I am Joey Scott. I'm the statewide director for our Ohio Apex Accelerator program. You may or may not know us by our former name, which is the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, or PTAC. So we have new leadership within the Department of Defense, specifically in the Office of Small Business Programs. And so with that comes a new name, but we have the same great mission, and that is to help you with all things government contracting. So whether you're trying to sell to the federal, state, or local government, whether you are a seasoned veteran or completely new to the government marketplace, we can assist. And so I always like to tell companies our services are very comprehensive, from cradle to grave. If it touches government contracting, we can assist, from helping you get your entity registrations, such as registering with the System for Award Management, so you can sell to the federal government. We're getting registered in Ohio Buys, sell to the state of Ohio, which we'll hear more about today, to looking at business certifications, if you qualify for woman-owned or veteran-owned, or any other certifications, to more advanced things, such as helping you find contract opportunities, helping you review the solicitation and review your proposal. We can't do anything for you, but we can assist you and make sure that you are submitting a very responsive and responsible proposal. And then on the post-award side of things, we can still assist, especially if you have a DoD contract, helping you work through the invoicing system through that, or even a state invoicing system. And then also looking at more advanced things such as cybersecurity requirements and myriad of other things. So like I said, we are your friend in all things government contracting. And that is a very brief overview, because you're not here to hear from me, you're here to hear from our keynote speaker today. So with that, Shonda, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Joey. The Apex accelerators are great partners. And again, as he said, to assist you in your efforts. If you're new to doing business with the government, they're a wonderful resource. or if you've already been doing this, they still can help you as a seasoned small business. Just a few housekeeping things before we actually jump into today's presentation. We do have the chat available. So as the presenter is going through and giving this presentation, if you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat. We'll find a good place and we'll pose the question to the presenter and we'll see if we can get that answered for you. Also, today's webinar is being recorded. So takes us a couple of days to finalize the link. We'll get that out to you if you'd like that, as well as a copy of the presentation slides. All right. So without further ado, again, today it's Wednesday, March 29th, and we're focusing on doing business with the state of Ohio. So if you are new to starting off your business, if you're looking to do business with the state, you're in the right place today. So we have James Yagodich, who is a training manager with the Office of Procurement Services at the Ohio Department of Administrative Services, who is going to give us a great overview and probably an interactive presentation to help you learn more about doing business with the state of Ohio. So James, if you want to go ahead and take it from here.
Will do. Thanks, Shonda. I appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. I just want to take a real quick second, talk about some key things we're going to talk about today. So feel free to ask those questions as we go along, please. I want to make this as interactive as possible. I'll do my best to answer those. There may be some questions I may have to parking lot, bring back, be able to add those back to the slide deck. I'm working on, there's a couple little things on the slide deck that have to be tidied up, but I will have that available and ready to be shared with those after the presentation if need be. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch off my screen here. In the meantime, I'm going to be sharing my screen with today's presentation. And what we're going to be talking about today is what the state of Ohio, our General Services Division within the Office of Procurement Services, how we do business, how the state does business, to help you understand that process so you can be better aware of the details, the necessary hoops that we're going through, and also where you fit into the mix. So let me go ahead and just do this here. All right. As you can see, we're part of the state of Ohio Administrative Services. Our team, what I want to talk about today is how to do business with the state of Ohio. A lot of questions come about, how do I participate? How do I be a part of this? What my goal of today is to give you some good highlights, some good entry points that you can start to look and start to see where opportunities can exist and to hopefully be able to participate in the near future. And I think what most of us feel like when you say state government, federal government, is that it's a maze. It's a process that takes a lot of knowledge. It takes a lot of inside information to be able to navigate that maze. But what we're hoping to do today is kind of straighten that out, put some key milestones, some key points along that route that as you want to participate, want to get involved and do business with the state, you have some good milestone markers to at least look towards. You know you're making progress to head down that path correctly. So a couple of things I want to talk about today. 6 items here. They all kind of blend together. It revolves on what we do here at our Office of Procurement Services within my team. We focus on supporting suppliers such as yourself, the community of political subdivisions, and all of our agencies internal to the state to be able to purchase and work with those suppliers to help administrate contracts, negotiate terms and conditions, and all that, the purchasing process. But there are some key elements we want to talk about so you understand how that works, so you can follow along. All right, some of the key things that you may ask yourself: what does the state buy, and how can I do business with the state? What can I sell them, or what are they buying, so I understand how my business can grow? Well, we buy basically everything, whether it's computers, IT products, vehicles for Department of Natural Resources, the parks, trucks, maybe the boats in the water that are out there patrolling the waterfronts. We've got cars across all of our enterprises. We have clothing, we have pharmaceutical purchases, we have food, we have professional services, whether it's short-term accounting needs or we have larger implementation needs for support of our IT products. But that's not limited to just those things. We also buy things that maybe I don't even think about, and perhaps you. And a good example, we've bought helicopters in the past. The Department of Natural Resources needs to be able to survey a lot of land and do what they do. So helicopters have been purchased. If you've ever seen the lottery's cash explosion game, that is part of the state. They put into contract production companies, all the necessary things that go into providing that live TV experience, as well as body scanners all the way to the down to the correctional institutions for those necessary security needs. So as you can see in here, we buy basically anything that you need to run and maintain your own household and or businesses. So keep that in mind as we go through this and as I talk through some of these practices that we follow. Now I'm going to talk about how much do we spend? A lot of people ask the question, what's the opportunity? A lot of zeros, right? That is $5 billion that the state spends on purchases on a wide variety of supplies per fiscal year, which runs from July 1st to June 30th the following calendar year. The state agencies spend approximately $1.5 billion on contracts that have been established within that addressable spend. So that's a fair amount of pie to divvy up and to share amongst all potential suppliers and interested parties that can win contract opportunities. But sometimes I think what I hear, what I've been told is maybe it's not, it's an unfair advantage. How do I get I don't think everyone gets a chance to do that. So to help kind of talk about that and kind of show and highlight what we have to do, so perhaps you have a better understanding of that process and seeing where we are doing the due diligence to spend taxpayer monies appropriately within the right scope, and not to misspend that money. So we have a certain number of items that we have to, and as you see in the image here, kind of depicting, we have to jump through a few hurdles to make sure we're doing things correctly. If not, we get tripped up and get sent back to the beginning and make sure we follow all the steps. And within that is the requisite procurement programs. State agencies are required by the law to purchase from one of the following state resources listed below here in this slide. Now, I will tell you that if the product is available within these state resources, we have to purchase from them. And for example, the Ohio Penal Industries is an inmate work program that's supported by the Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. They provide a large list of opportunities and products and services that are required by the state to be purchased from first. The community rehabilitation program is another legal requirement for state agencies, as well as your political subdivisions. And those are the townships, counties around the state that are under the jurisdiction of the state of Ohio, and that allows for nonprofit organizations that employ adults with disabilities the opportunity to have contracts for the state. CRP suppliers offer items such as writing instruments, latex gloves, janitorial, landscaping services, etc. Then the opportunities for Ohioans with disability, another state agency that partners with Ohioans with disabilities to achieve quality employment and independence. OOD works with partners in business, education, nonprofit organizations to facilitate a customized employment plan for Ohioans with disabilities, as well as to help Ohio companies recruit and retain employees with disabilities. And if the remaining within the Office of Information Technology, various computer hardware, software services that they have to go through and check first. State printing, mail services, we do a full service print shop offering within the state. So we have to go there to make sure they can meet those needs. But talk about, again, that these are the things that we have to check first. So In this instance, we're going to kind of assume we're kind of going along that journey of that roadmap where we've got to check one milestone and we have to look here. Our good or service that we're looking for to purchase isn't being fulfilled here. So what we need to do is go on to the next step of our process is look at, and currently the state of Ohio has contracts on file that we have to use, whether those contracts are short for services, whether it's a long contract, how it's established for an implementation of a new software, those existing services and contracts have to be looked at first. So these contracts can be created based on previous needs across the state. Some of our contracts are for one specific agency, or they may be for a group of agencies. Then there are contracts that are for everyone, even our political subdivisions to use and partner with. Now, some of these contracts are mandatory. Now, there are others that may not be mandatory. They can be an optional source of opportunity to purchase from. So again, we're talking about that roadmap. We're going through the process, and this is kind of step two, hoop two, hurdle two. So we haven't been able to find anyone that has to have a requirement. We're looking at the current existing contracts that are available. We can't find it there. So our next option is to establish a new contract. And that's kind of where the audience here today kind of fits into that picture. As we've gone through that, we've determined if it's a need, we've determined who can provide it, if anyone can provide it, and if no one can at this time, then we're able to create that new contract. And we have to go through a competitive selection process. And what that means is that we're making sure suppliers are competing against one another to provide the best cost and sometimes the best value to the state to be able to purchase from, so we can spend taxpayer money with the proper due diligence. And within those, there's two main types of competitive selection processes that we use. The first one is that invitation to bid. And now this is where we have very clear specifications. We're looking for the lowest responsive and responsible bid. It's a rather quick process. And now the scope of this typically is a very clearly defined statement of work. We're looking for, a good example is the Department of Natural Resources uses a youth fishing program yearly, and they need to purchase 5,000 fishing poles. And now what they're looking for is a specific style of fishing pole, a very specific length, has very specific color specifications, et cetera, et cetera. And again, they're looking for 5,000, which gives a very clear picture, a very clear identifier of what is needed. So that way, when you're looking at these invitations to bid, you don't have to worry about, do you need it to be a cast and reel, a cast rod? I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big fisherman, so certain types of pole styles, whether the material has to be fiberglass or does it have to be metal or whatever that may be, that's very detailed in the request of this contract need, so that you're able to, as a supplier, determine whether or not you can meet that, or if you can, then you're able to specifically respond to that with confidence. But on the other hand, we have requests for proposals, which RFPs, you may hear about this throughout this presentation and once you get into our system. But this is where the scope of work is not clearly defined, because the purpose is that the agency is looking for a best solution with some set of parameters. Because once the offerers have been determined to be responsive and responsible, there's an evaluation process that reviews the offers from a technical perspective, a financial perspective, best value to the state. And this is where a lot of things such as software implementation or things of that nature that would necessarily, we're not sure what we need, but we need a new accounting system. We don't know if it needs to be an Apple. We don't know if it needs to be an Android type of perspective of a software operating system, but we just know we need an actual accounting system. There's lots of companies, lots of options, and businesses can provide the best solution in their mind for what we're asking for the state. And what the state does is they go through and review all the parts and pieces and put it in a scoring, and then determine based upon the scores what's the most advantageous offer to the state to use to meet the needs of the best value. Now down at the bottom, a reverse auction. Now, we used to do a fair amount of these in the past. This is a very commodity sensitive type of process. Now, one of our most recent reverse auctions was a number of years ago for steel. And that was part of our state's license plates process. We had to get steel. They had to do a reverse auction. And if you know about auctions, usually the price goes up. Everyone's bidding, trying to spend as much to get that. This is the reverse, obviously, and that's where companies such as you offer the lowest point of where you're feeling comfortable to be able to meet that, to win that auction, to be able to do business with the state. Again, it's commodity sensitive, doesn't happen as much, but most of our primary contracts that we're looking for that you have opportunity to bid on are our invitation to bid and a request for proposals. But there's also negotiated contracts. Now, these are state term schedules, such as master maintenance agreements, master license agreements, cloud services agreements. And those are part of a process that, with comparison, they're negotiated on the federal schedule pricing based upon similarly situated, most favorable customer pricing, and even with other competitively bid contracts from the state or local consortiums that are available. Within the state term schedule, as the contracts are negotiated, they are not competed. So each state agency, when using an STS, an MMA, will have to have a 3-quote minimum when purchasing from that type of contract. If they do not submit 3 quotes to the approval process that's internal, they will be requested to go get 3 quotes. It's a very strict policy that's being upheld for better transparency for our purchases, for your benefit, to make sure that you have an opportunity to be able to provide the best competitive pricing that you can to win that bid. So if you're currently a supplier and you're currently have done business with the state, and we'll talk about commodity codes here shortly just to identify that, and someone's reached out to you and you've been identified to providing a quote, we encourage everyone that gets contacted to provide a quote to ensure that we're giving the best opportunity for us to purchase and for you to have an opportunity. Not having quotes is not an acceptable process within our expectations of those hurdles that we're jumping over to make sure that we're following legislative law to make sure we're purchasing with the best transparency. Now, there are processes. I know some people talk about GSAs. STSs are very similar to that, but there are opportunities within an STS program, but an agency has to sponsor, go to the request to purchase agency, ask for that. Our agency happens to be that. We have to review that and then determine whether or not a supplier can be added to an STS. It's definitely not a guarantee, but there are steps to go through working with your marketing to the agencies directly to help to do that. And we'll talk about that later in the slideshow. All right, so we talked about the maze, talked about how confusing that is. Now we're talking about going through what the state employees have to do to be able to spend money, to be able to purchase goods and or services. And that way, again, just to help bringing you up to speed, how we're going through that. There isn't any favoritism. There isn't any conspiracies that we're trying to to cover up that these are the proper ways by which we're actually supposed to be purchasing per the law. So helping you understand where that comes in. And now we're going to talk about the contracts, creating contracts. But before we do, are there any questions, anything I may have missed or about this process that someone has a question on? I don't see any in the chat, but I just want to make sure.
No questions yet. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to go to talk about establishing and managing your profile to do business with the state. Those who may be currently going through that, there are a few steps. Those who are getting ready to, I'm going to talk about some specific perspective on how to manage your profile within the Ohio Buys, the procurement world. Now, there are other profiles and information that has to be created if you actually get into an actual contract, but we definitely provide that information as we get moving into that process with doing business with the state on a contractual effort. But we're going to switch gears here, talk about how the state employees are required. Now you're thinking about looking for an opportunity, and how do you do that? But you got to get registered. So that way we can benefit from our new system where actually you can get notified electronically of opportunities that are out there. But to do so, we're going to go to our procurement, procuroohio.gov. This is our main website that we have out there that provides tons of information, whether you're a new supplier, maybe, or you're a current supplier, or even if you're a bidder in the case of Ohio Buys. And we're talking about Ohio Buys. If you've not heard about that, we're going to get into that in just a second. But this is a new website for those who may have been here before in the past. We used to be, I think it was blue. We've changed colors here. But the red, and we've got a more modern look. What you see here within like the middle of the screen, those 3 tiles, we have a lot more tiles now. They're easy to click on and bring information to you. But the 3 tiles here in the middle really speak to the highest volume of access interest that's out there. Users such as yourself, myself, are going out and looking at, going out looking for potential contracts, information. And if you look at the top header, we have bidders and suppliers, a category, a section header that you're able to go up to and find information specifically for you. In this case, we're talking about Ohio Buys, and you may ask, what is Ohio Buys? Well, Ohio Buys is the state of Ohio's new online purchasing solution that was established to help empower both our buyers and you as interested suppliers to help leverage this technology to increase an efficiency, such as you can do electronic submissions of those bids. You don't have to come into a physical location. You're able to do that from a distance. I'm here in Columbus, you may be in Cleveland, Cincinnati, Toledo, where have you, and be able to do electronic bidding to participate in all of those instead of having to drive here and put a paper bid in and then drive back home and wait for an opportunity. So also opportunities, we're able to provide more opportunities. We're leveraging all agencies to be able to utilize this tool to present any contract bid opportunities that they're looking for to increase that larger net of opportunity and being able for you to participate as well. Our office here within the Office of Procurement Services under the Ohio Department of Administrative Services manages this. We were planning on continuing to grow, expanding into other state agencies. All the boards and commissions, as well as the local governments, are targeted to be on our adoption to be able to utilize the system to better help you as suppliers to make sure there's one location for opportunities instead of having to go through multiple websites, multiple locations, trying to track down opportunities. So clicking on that bidders and suppliers link, you got 8 tiles here, and 8 tiles kind of break out. You can look at selling to the state, accessing Ohio buys, training opportunities, specific contracts and solicitations that are available. So the host of information is available for you to utilize. And we're going to go through some of these key things to be able to kind of point those out to you so you can use them as great resources within your journey of becoming a supplier with the state. But first things first, we're going to talk about accessing Ohio buys. As you can see, we're going to accessing that tile. What that provides is a landing page with some information that details Ohio buys, kind of highlights. There's some FAQs that are available, some start guides, but also on the right-hand side, we have a login. And I'll just clarify now, you do not have to be logged in to Ohio buys to be able to see opportunities. I'm just walking this through more of a beginner step, going through that process to help you be prepared for opportunities and to get those automatic solicitation notifications sent to you through email so that you'll be able to respond and have better opportunities. So the importance of logging in is to manage your profile, your organization's profile, your commodity codes, your responses, being able to submit those electronically. What you see here, this is our landing page. You can, once you get into Ohio buys, you can save this particular landing URL on your browser. It's a great idea to be able to come here, log in, look at opportunities. But previous slides kind of showed you some of those tiles where you can actually access a lot of this information as well, and you don't have to be logged in. So, but I'll hopefully have it squeeze in a few minutes in the live demo to go through a couple things. Normal process, everyone has to create an OHID account. This is something new the past couple of years. This has been a focus of making sure each individual in the state of Ohio or potential supplier, person who's participating in Ohio buys system access has to have an OHID. If you've not done that yet, this is a kind of a basic step to walk through that process. Now, I will say all the staff that you may have, let's say you have 15 people on your team that are doing types of solicitations, or even if it's just you still have to create an OHID to be able to move to the next step. It's just kind of that initial overall username password that we're creating for you as an individual to have better security wrapped around that for you with Ohio buys. And within that, it's pretty straightforward. 6 key things. You got to establish your email. You got to make sure you have and they'll ask you for personal information, identify who you are. You'll create a username, a password, even a recovery and setup. A lot of new websites do that where you have to get into it, where do we send the email to help you get back into this account. Again, the state of Ohio is getting up to speed with a lot of the newer technologies that you're experiencing with most of your phone devices and other internet online practices that are out there. And then again, terms and conditions, it'll be being able to accept that. And once you get that completed, you'll be notified with a one-time code that gets sent back to that email address. And then you'll be able to participate, and then you'll log back in and you'll be able to update, again, that company profile, respond to bids, get notifications based upon what type of commodities that you have. But before we get going, let's talk about commodities. I know some of you may have experienced other businesses, maybe not other state governments, but other federal governments that have different classification codes for their goods and or services. There may be the standard industrial classification, the SIC codes, or the NASIC, the North American Industry Classification System. Those are commonly used across the globe. The state of Ohio actually uses the United Nations Standard Products and Services Code System, otherwise known as UNSPSC, as our base category code system. But I want to kind of walk through this really quick because it's an important process of understanding the commodity codes if you are new to this process. The website UNSPSC is very simple to use, very easy to navigate. I suggest after the webinar, if you get a chance, kind of go through that and explore that to kind of understand what codes are out there. And the reason why is because sometimes the categories of what you're looking for may have a couple different codes. And sometimes if our agencies, and we don't use all of the codes in the UNSPSC, but it just helps you be more aware of what codes you're looking for once you get into Ohio Buys and selecting those organizational profile commodity codes for yourself. But in this instance, you can easily, on the left, search the codes. You can search by number or code name. For this example, I'm just going to use janitorial because this provides a good example. High level information, but a lot of parts and pieces that go with that. Again, if you already know the code number, you can search for that. But most times, people I've talked to are just looking, they're more of a code. And I would say try to use more of the parent level, the highest level terminology for what type of services or goods you have to give you a big picture of what's available. But adding janitorial and doing the search provides a host of responses here. We've got, you can see, we've got 4712, we've got 471215, 47121501. As it goes down, it goes further down that tree and getting more defined. But if you look at the very bottom, there's 7611. Those 4-digit codes may be something an agency is promoting. So again, it's just a way to kind of give you a bigger picture of how the information is provided and making sure that when you go into Ohio Buys, again, that you're able to find the right results and be more familiar with that. All right, now back to Ohio Buys. Now, once you've kind of understood the commodity process, you know what things your businesses provide and what you're looking to provide. You can manage that from the company side, that organization. Now, items are called out at the location. And for instance, if you have a business that has multiple locations, multiple intakes, whether it's accounts receivable, or maybe you have a building out of town that does manufacturing and purchase order needs to go here or an order needs to go there, that can be part of that overall company account. But if you're just a single person with a single location and it's just one thing, this is kind of just calling out that you have to toggle between your locations within that to make sure you're managing the commodities properly so that you can add them to the head office location and be able to be invited to the solicitations. Pretty straightforward. And if you're looking at that for a good example here under this company info, contacts are managed at the location, the address, and not the supplier level. So that means a contact needs to be associated with each location in order to access information and perform actions for that location. We get lots of cases where individuals are not set up or associated within the locations, and that provides them not being able to see, get communicated with, which can cause a delay in responses or missing opportunities based upon that profile. So we have great resources, job aids, a support desk that can be contacted. My team works with individuals one-on-one over the phone. Sometimes we do screen share. We're able to get out there and show you where to click through, demonstrate that in a live setting to help support that. So this information today, definitely there's a lot of resources that help support that. So, but if going through the process, I'm going through the company profile, easily selecting that and opening that, adding extra information, what it is, and then looking at what particular commodities are available that you want to add to your list. Now we'll say county served, the field up here in the top. You can determine if you just want to support your county or all the counties or specific counties for whatever determination you may have. But it's always encourage just to leave that blank so that you get the best return of all of the counties available to determine whether or not you want to participate. But the supplier commodities, sorry, easily expanding that and adding more to that is done by just using keywords like we talked about in the UNSPSC. You could add janitorial, you could add apparel, luggage, personal care products, perhaps, and you're able to select that. What you can do is select at the highest level. What that gives you is a bigger picture of all the items. Maybe your business does everything: clothing, footwear, luggage, personal care, sewing supplies, etc., and so on and so on. Or you just do clothing. And that's just a way to help narrow down the number of notifications that you get. We do encourage having as many commodities in your profile as you want. If you want to look for all the opportunities that fall underneath a specific category type, we encourage you to do so. You can have just one if it's all you do, or you can have 20, or you can have 50. However large your company is and how much it offers determines how many commodity codes you add to that.
James,
Yes.
we have a quick question. Is the website, can you give that website again? Is it Ohio spelled out id.gov? But can you mention that again?
Yeah, the Ohio. I just totally lost train of thought. Yes, let me just click back.
Okay, thank you. There it is. So
yeah, just hold on one second.
and you know what? I may be able to, let me see if I can go out and find it and post it in the chat.
It's ohid.ohio.gov, I think. Yep, it's ohid.ohio. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, you can say it and I'll go ahead and type
Okay.
it.
It's ohid. .ohio.gov.
Oh, and somebody actually just posted it.
Yeah.
ohioid.ohio.gov. And this actually takes you to the portal and the home, the long one that he gave. Let me see. Okay, that's it. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. When you said it, I had to sound it out almost in my head.
All right.
So let me scoot back to where we're here. So it's easy once you've got your profile, your OHID established. Once you've got that associated and you have a role, your company, your business is associated to you. You're able to add additional users. You're able then to identify commodities that you want to be notified for. Again, you can have as many as you want or as few as you need to have. It's just up to you, and you can adjust those anytime. So let's say your business is growing this quarter and you're going to add more, come in here and add those commodities to be able to get those automated responses being sent to you so you can actually just respond via electronic setup. So the next thing is kind of talking about like finding those opportunities, right? I think that's the next big thing. Once you're registered, how am I going to find these? Now there's two ways for bidders and or suppliers to view those solicitations. The first one is what we just mentioned, and the purpose of getting set up and your profile established is that you can get those invited through email, and you can actually respond back to just through a link, opening it up, logging in, putting your bids in, and then submitting those bids. Or we're going to talk about public solicitations page. That's where you don't have to be logged in, and you see the same thing as someone who's logged in. across all entities of the state. So again, the OHID, Ohio Buys landing page. If you look here in the bottom, we do have, there's like 5 of them, 5 links. And what these specifically do is take you to a specific part of Ohio Buys, whether it's the public solicitations that are out there, the current public catalog of all the items that the state users have access to, helps you determine whether or not you can look for marketing opportunities, like see what the price is on this good and or service to help you plan ahead for the next contract posting. You can look at all the contracts. You can determine when they're going to expire and put together a marketing plan, put together a plan to be able to respond to that. Public records. If you're looking for marketing opportunities and you want to look at what all the bids were, all the information regarding the last contract, you can actually put in a request for that and then request the information that will determine whether or not what you ask for can be provided. There's some proprietary information that won't be provided, but it's great information to help your business plan for the next opportunity. But we're going to talk about public solicitations and what that provides you by going into the portal, going to this link, provides you a list of all solicitations that are available. And if you've used the older system, you had to do a lot more filtering up front to get information. This provides everything up front. So you're able to see and then determine how you want to filter that down. What provides, you can see each line has a certain number of information, columns that associate with that particular name that helps you identify what it is, whether it's a solicitation type, whether it's that one-time bid, as we mentioned, an invitation to bid, or it's a request for proposal, an RFP. Also, there's the begin date, clearly defines when that bid is posted and when it's available to respond to it, as well as the end date, as well as an inquiry date. There may be questions going back to the fishing pole example, DNR may have put out that invitation to bid, and you want a little bit more information to see if you can provide a substitution, if that's not available, or some other opportunity for your business to be able to participate. We have time periods when you can submit questions. The agencies will answer that on a forum inside the solicitation, so everyone who's looking at it can see that and benefit from that as well. So if you think about that, if you're putting your bids in and you're not sure and someone else asks the questions that you're thinking, it helps you, helps them, helps everyone else provide a better competitive environment for us to make sure we're having the best price and the best purchase with taxpayer money. Also, it breaks it down into the commodities, so you can search based upon that, as well as MBE set aside. If you're currently an registered MBE with the Department of Development and you have that certification on file, you'll get notified based upon those, and then you can actually see these. Now, if you're not currently registered and certified to be an MBE, you will not be able to participate. You have to be registered by that time of the posting to make sure that you're able to participate. So if you're in that process, or if you are, make sure your certification is correct and on file, and because if not, you won't be able to see those specific set-asides. But what you can do, once you find something you're interested in, what you do is there's a pencil, looks like a pencil icon on the left side of the screen. You're gonna click that. What that does is open up the actual solicitation. It's just the way it was designed. I think when it says, I think the hover button says edit, and it's not edit, it's just opening. But what that provides you with is the detail information. For example, this is a MBE set aside solicitation to highlight that. And then what that does, it shows you the name, what exactly it's looking for. It'll tell you the begin date. And then the summary, it actually goes into more details. Agencies are, encouraged to put as much information up front so that helps you determine how you're able to respond to that bid. There's also additional information inside this, whether it's what will be the contract, whether the terms and conditions, maybe it's documents that you have to fill out to be able to participate in. Maybe there's an actual on-site requirement where you have to come in and look at something before you're able to submit the bid. But they have different types of inquiries, different types of requests that suppliers must go through to make sure that everyone's aware of it to have the best responses. And as you can see, we also have an inquiry. Someone had a question and then the answer was provided for everyone to see. So that should hopefully help you determine a better response to that.
James,
Yes.
Shauna Abrams has a question. Does the veteran and woman-owned certifications qualify as MBE?
They veteran, VBE, and WBE have their own category right now. Women-owned businesses and veteran do not have specific set-asides. They're just a certification. But right now, the MBA, they're working on that. They're looking into opportunities. I know legislative conversations that they're trying to get to that point. Right now, the MBE, the VBE, and the WBE are an opportunity as well to have a certification on file. But there are no set-asides at this time for the latter two. Does that make sense? I think. All right. So again, talking about inquiries, Ohio Buys, once you're logged in and you're ready to you've got a notification you're interested in, you have some questions. It allows you to submit any inquiries and in correspondence to the state to have clarifications that get put into the open Q&A section. And there's a history to that as well. So that provides a transparency of that. But once you've sent that in, now you've got your information, now you're ready to respond to that invitation. You want to make sure that you are ready for that. So the next step of your process is submitting that. So once you've reviewed it, you've accepted the terms and conditions, you will have an ability to provide responses to questionnaires, questions that may be required, item tabs where you provide let's say that we're looking for certain widgets, you can provide your description, your quantity, your price. You can also share that with other colleagues in your business that if they want to help additional information to access and assist with this solicitation. That is a key factor of being able to make sure you get all the people looking at this and it's not just one person. But once you've submitted that response, you get a confirmation flag stating that the bid has been submitted with a time date stamp, and you'll be able to receive all those response histories at any time. So if you're looking at an acknowledgement, we make sure that you're acknowledging it, that you're moving forward with the process. We'll talk about if you need to withdraw that here shortly, but just a quick reminder, if you're browsing through the solicitations, you'll see a participate in RFX. When you click that, it'll tell you it will be grayed out. And once it has the full color of the button, I believe it's a blue button, then you can tell that you're logged in and you'll be able to participate and respond to that. If not, you'll have to go back to the login page, log in with your credentials, and then go to that solicitation and start that response. But here, just going through that to show, highlighting that your items, whatever you're adding to, whatever your responses are, terms and conditions have to be responded to that. Some key things to keep in mind when responding to an invitation to bid are agreeing to those terms and conditions, submitting any inquiries that are requested, responding to the questions that are provided, and entering the item grids. Attach any additional requested information. There may be a documentation that's requesting you to, let's say, provide for an RFP, they want you to be able to show your skilled labor force. Like, what is your resumes of the staff that's going to be implementing this new project? They want to know that, they be able to provide that. And then make sure you click to submit your proposal. Make sure that goes, you click that. And then be prepared to respond to any clarifications requested by the state. There are times where what's submitted and doesn't make sense, and it has to be clarified whether or not to be able to accept that specific submission. Now, as I mentioned, MBE and veteran certified suppliers must be certified at the time of the bid opening. So if any type of certification within the MBE, you have to be certified at the time of bid opening. So if not, then your bid will not be accepted for that. For bids that are posted in Ohio Buys, responses must be submitted through the system. We do not accept paper bids anymore. You have to submit the information through an electronic process. And the responses, your bid submissions must be received prior to the end date and time to be considered for an award. If you have technical difficulties, if you run into internet outages, or your computer goes through a shutdown and has to reboot, the computer has date time stamp, and if it's not date time stamped by the required bid opening time, we're unable to accept any bids after that, and the system won't even let you submit that. Even if you were thinking, if I just do paper bid because my computer broke, that won't be accepted either. But you can amend and withdraw a response. Say, as make a decision, change your mind, it's not an opportunity you're looking for, you can withdraw that. And just as in typical process, easy to do, click the withdraw, able to withdraw within that. Now for bid openings, our bid openings are open and verified at 1 p.m. on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. As noted on our solicitations, I will say that be mindful of verifying the end date of the solicitation that you're preparing your response for. Agencies across the enterprise do not have the same bid opening times as our Office of Procurement Services. We've run into agencies maybe have a 5 o'clock open time. Maybe they have a noon time. So if making sure that you get your bids in by that date is an important thing to take into consideration. Again, no excuses will be considered. It's just a hard and fast rule within our procurement process that has no exceptions, and that the system won't allow you. So again, take the moment to verify the end date of that solicitation, and we're going to jump out into the environment to look at that here shortly, just to kind of point that out for you. But the evaluation process, once you submit that, it goes through a team that reviews that, that validates the bids, looks for the responsible bidders, lowest price, and that becomes an award. What happens then, it gets posted to Ohio Buys and a purchase order is cut. As soon as that is approved, it gets put into the system. Now, as we talked about earlier, for those people who are starting off the process, let's say you put in a great price and you're still a bidder and you're not quite a full supplier, you will have to complete the supplier registration through Ohio Pays and all the necessary Secretary of State, Treasurer of State, Ohio Business Gateway process to make sure that you are indeed a full-fledged supplier able to do business. And then you'll be able to submit goods and services and get paid for that once that's done. But simple process again, just to kind of go over that, we won't spend too much time, but this is the request for proposal. We talked about more of the in-depth type of proposal that's being looked at. Again, that's a best value of the state, talking about how we're going to score that. what their areas of experience, proposed solution, etc. And then some of the key elements that we look for is the summary, the general instructions, the evaluation criteria, and award of contract. Those are provided and be able to describe what's actually needed within the actual key proposal. And then there's certain components of the proposal that have to be reviewed and most of the time are submitted. These are your extra documents you have to submit. You have to provide scope of work. For instance, you have to provide candidate references, education, training, company references, cost summary forms, et cetera, making sure in your proposals, making sure in any proposal that you're reviewing the documents, verifying that you're submitting all of the necessary documents. Because if you do not submit all at the time of the bid opening and they look at all these and it's not there, they will not be able to accept your proposal. So make sure you do the due diligence and use a checkoff list to provide some safety nets, making sure that you have all that stuff done, at least to be able to be looked at to be considered for an award. The proposal openings are very much the same. We have that Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays in our system. And then 1 p.m. is our opening date. Now, again, look at the end date of each solicitation when providing your responses, because it could be different than the 1 o'clock. We're planning on that. So keep that in mind. All right, now onto the more fun things, I guess. Talking about marketing the products and or services. What we've talked about so far is you've gone through a process to see how the state has to spend the money, how they have to use the laws and abide by those to be able to provide fair and transparent purchases. Understand how to create a profile, updating your organization's profile through Ohio Buys, making sure you have commodity codes, making sure you have that so you can get those automatic emails, making sure that you can be able to receive bids and opportunities that your business is looking for. You're able then to, once you've got those, you're able to respond to those and how to do those. But now you're kind of in a period of time where you're just waiting on notifications. How else do you grow? How else do you market this outside of what opportunities there are? I know we talked about like records request, you can current contract views, you can understand how to see what's out there when contracts expire, to kind of plan business plans. You can also look at what other prices you have to look at to see how we can maybe meet that or match that in the future. But as you're doing that, how do you market that to other people across the state, other state agencies and political subdivisions? What I have here is a map of all the counties of Ohio, and then the map link, as you can see here, it's a link to an actual map that provides contacts to all political member contacts within the local political subdivision groups. There's approximately 3,000 across the state. At any given time, we have somewhere in the 2,000 to 2,500 registered. Participating in this, it used to be a small fee. We've waived the fee. They're able to use state contracts. They're looking for things to purchase. It's a great opportunity for you to be able to go to this link, look through the resources of your county. Maybe it's just starting there, maybe then expanding to, there could be local fire departments, there could be local townships, cities, libraries. There are also K through 12 school districts that purchase things that they're able to participate in that, and you'll be able to find contacts and reach out to these particular people and see if any of your goods or services would meet their needs. Or you even if you look at maybe say a school district and you're having some very specific widget you're selling, reaching out to them, seeing if they're interested, helping you diversify that outreach, trying to find some more opportunities while you're waiting for the state to post any other opportunities that come along. Now, another opportunity I'm going to talk about the direct purchase authority, as we call it the DPA. Any purchase that exceeds $25,000 must be submitted to our office for review to make sure that you are purchasing, and we use a checklist like we talked about earlier. Are there any requisite programs? Are there any current contracts that would be met by this request? Or if it's a contract that doesn't exist, we would look at it and see if we would manage that or help the agency do that. But as long as the available purchase doesn't exceed 50,000, an agency can use their direct purchase authority granted by the Ohio Revised Code. And even up to $25,000, an agency can just purchase with a lot more ability without the request of purchases. So a great opportunity. Again, if your widget makes sense at the Department of Corrections, the Department of Health, Natural Resources, and you have a strong feeling that there could be an opportunity, we encourage you to reach out to agency procurement officers to market your business, to market your tools that you have available for them. And what would happen, going back to that earlier discussion of contracts, let's say the Department of Aging loves the idea of what you're trying and they want to purchase that, but it costs X amount of dollars. They'll come to us, they'll have a request, and if we can verify that there isn't an existing contract or the opportunity that's out there, requisite program, they can grant them the ability to purchase that on their own. Or they may say, that's a great idea. I think that would be great for all the agencies, especially agriculture and commerce and so forth. But that'll get turned into one of those solicitations. If your commodities out there, they'll create a contract potential, a bidding solicitation opportunity for you to be able to bid on to participate in that. The unfortunate part of that is that then you're competing against everybody. And that's just kind of our competitive nature, making sure our contracts are competed against multiple sources and not just one. So in the bigger scope of things, this is an opportunity in the meantime while you're waiting for those opportunities to come through electronic notification. And question about how do I get the political subdivision link? I'm gonna highlight it here in a minute, but it'll also be in the slide deck that goes out. It'll be a live link. Any of the links within the presentation you're able to click on them and go to that specific site.
James,
Yes.
we do have a question. Diane Martin wants to know, okay, how do we get the political subdivision link?
Yep. It's a great question. What I'm showing now is these are additional resource links. I'm going to show that here, but down the bottom left corner, state of Ohio map of counties is available for that, being able to view that. And I'm going to show that here in the next couple minutes, getting out to the website really quick. So again, additional resources here, this whether it's that tile I showed you earlier, selling to the state, whether it's the state of Ohio procurement, procureohio.gov, public solicitations that are available, FAQs for Ohio Pays if you're currently a supplier, and how that ties. There's a lot of additional information, the minority business information that's available through the Department of Development. Also, Ohio Interactive Budget. It shows you what types of purchases are done all across the states and agencies, and you can help market your spend, your goods and services to those agencies that are spending those monies. You can at least look to see what commodity codes are spent against the most versus the ones maybe not the most. There's a lot of great information to help formulate a good business plan or an approach plan for future contracts that are available. And there's a question. It says, is there a limitation on how many bids you can submit? And if you're talking in regards, say there's a bid and you put, say, $1 for this widget, and then you determine, I want to reduce that. I want to do 95 cents. You'd have to withdraw and then resubmit that. But you can do that. You just, and I think that's what that's referring to with Pierce. If I'm correct, if you can let me know if I'm not correct, perhaps if there any more clarification on that.
And James, there's another question. I don't know if you see it. I can read it to you.
Yep, I totally get that, Tiara. I think the wellness industry there, what we've seen the past 3 years, I hear a lot of like mental health conversations about needs and stuff like that. The agencies are looking at ways to do that. Yes, I think the best opportunity, if you're registered, obviously, you know, getting those commodity codes associated. Also, you know, keeping an eye out just on the procureohio.gov website, and then reaching out to the agency procurement officers and see if there's any, and then if they have inquiries or had conversations with people, they're able to say they can at least have that conversation with you, or connect you with those people who would be interested in opportunities like that. Yeah, I think that the same question, Trey. I think that same thing with that. If you're not seeing a lot of opportunities getting posted, and I think that's just a matter of they run in cycles. Sometimes it depends when the contract expires and when it ends, and there may not be a lot of them. Let's say for the visual media services and the Ohio Lottery's cash explosion. I know that I don't know when that contract ends or those types of things, but you might take a look at the current public contracts and look at those current ones and see when they end to kind of help you gauge when to start preparing to expect a new one coming along. So I hope that helps.
James,
Mhm.
could I add something with that?
Yeah.
Could they also a good way for them to look for potential opportunities in their industry, the agency forecasts, as far as what the agencies are potentially looking to buy for the year? That's something that they can also check out, the agency forecast. And then also, I don't know if, like at the federal level, if the state like records what was purchased throughout the year. Is there a record of all of the purchases somewhere so that people can look up, you know, what was purchased, or do research?
Yeah, a great addition there. Best thing they can do is like look at current contracts that are out there on our procureohio.gov within the Ohio Buys platform. You can look at all the existing ones. You can see that. You can also use the Ohio Interactive Budget and drill down into agency spend. We have a Think Ohio report that gets posted as well that kind of breaks out the commodity-based purchases per the agencies. It'll tell you that the state of Ohio spent, let's say, $100. Let's just say $100 million, just put it in better perspective, because on IT services, and then it'll break down per agency, and then it'll break down into was it cloud services based upon those commodity breakdowns. You're able to see how that's broken out too by using that budget. Also, looking at the current contracts gives you a lot of additional detail of what prices things are being that had been won in the past contract opportunities. Obviously with inflation and, you know, and depending on how that works for you and your business, what you feel comfortable and what you can plan for the next opportunity. And then Pierce is asking about, is the city certifications also accepted for the state? I'm not quite sure what type of city certifications, but the state certifications as in regards to MBE, VBE, and WBE are state certifications. We don't, let's say you're from Florida and you have a minority business certification, the state doesn't, you still have to fill out the certification request in Ohio. It doesn't just transfer. So not knowing I don't know too much about city certifications, but I think that would fall in the same bucket. You would have to go through the certification process through the state agency to be in that particular group.
Can I add one
Mhm.
thing to that, James? Because there is, great question, Pierce. The city of Columbus does also have an MBE certification,
Okay.
but it is different from the state's MBE. So typically, if you're getting a certification from a particular government entity, it's just good for that government entity. So whatever certifications are for the city are good for the city government, that city government. Whatever certifications that the state has are just good for the state. Whatever certifications, and Antoinette's asking about the 8A certification, that's a federal certification. That's just good at the federal level. So those certifications are just good for that government entity. Hopefully that helps to kind of clarify. Thank you.
That's good to know. I was unaware of that federal certification. No, great questions, right? What I'll do, I'm got a couple more slides here so I can go. I'm going to jump out to the website and kind of show you guys. I want to show you that map. I kind of want to show you some solicitations. We've got some time. I want to make sure you can see that and see that in real time. So again, this is a large list of additional resources that are definitely key tools to help you. But I want to call out though, before we go here, the Ohio Department of Transportation has its own portal, its own process for getting postings and solicitations and bids that are out there. So if your goods or services fall into that category of being something the Ohio Department of Transportation during this current year, you would still go to them. We are in the process of transitioning them to Ohio Buys. So I think that by calendar year 24, a lot of their particular solicitations will be going through Ohio Buys to be supported with that. And then the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, the same thing. Their process of posting, they manage that because they do all the constructions on state buildings, K through 12 schools, et cetera. They manage that through their own process. But we're working with them, trying to adopt them into Ohio Buys again to provide one single source of solicitation and opportunities for you as suppliers trying to do business with Ohio. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, we have specific supplier webinars. I know today went through a lot of information from perspective of how we're doing business and so forth, and diving in a little bit into the Ohio Buys process. But the reason why there's June here, we're going through an upgrade of our Ohio Buys platform. We're going to be having trainings and notifications and communications coming out for those suppliers who are registered as suppliers in the state and those who are bidders. So we're going to be going through that process, and we'll be back to normal training and opportunities within the Ohio Buys platform as a supplier's perspective in June. Don't know your timeline, whether you're just kind of getting stuff together or if you're ramped up, ready to go. These webinars are great for staff to understand how to access, how to navigate all the solicitation process. There are contracts the state have that are revenue share, and they require additional reporting measures associated with that. But again, these are additional webinars that are coming up in June. But in the meantime, I'm going to provide you with a whole list of other resources that you can utilize to help your journey, as well as our support desk that you're able to work with and get questions answered when needed. So with that, if you have questions, encounter any issues, you can contact the support team at this obm.sharedservices@obm.ohio.gov. Telephone number as well. They're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. Questions, what happens? They'll gather some basic information, transition you to our team. Our team will reach out. We'll, like I said, have a conversation, do some walkthroughs, answer questions, help you get what you need to get done to be able to support your business, to be able to do business with Ohio Buys. There are some additional resources here. The Ohio Buys bidder and supplier training, whether that's, we do have some videos out there. We have some job aids, specific task job aids, and learner guides that cover everything. So big picture wise, any problems, any questions, you can actually put a ticket in, and our team will go through those, manage those, call you, and help resolve those one-to-one. So what I'd like to do is jump out to the internet, kind of show you some opportunities that we have within the site to highlight some of those, what we just talked about during this presentation. So if you don't mind, I'll just jump out there and we will kind of walk you through some of those things. All right, so you should be seeing my screen. You should be seeing the procureohio.gov. As I put that in the chat earlier, the presentation has the link to this landing spot. I do encourage you, if you can, add it to your browser, put a folder up there, put some procurement items in there. That way you're able to save those and reference them quickly. But as I mentioned, the procureohio.gov website has a host of information. We talk about community rehabilitation program. We talk about the cooperative purchasing members, public records requests. That's what we talked about from that marketing perspective. Maybe you want to know, you put in a bid and you didn't win. You want to know how they won, information about that, all the prices, all the details from all the submissions. You can put a records request in. They'll provide that information with a certain amount of time that you're able to use that for the next situation where you want to look at opportunities to make bids. There are debarment lists, I'll call that out there. Suppliers who aren't responsive or responsible in their bids for, let's say they don't provide their widgets as they said they would, or they problems that we have with that, you can be put on a debarment list. It's just a way for us to share suppliers who are not meeting that. But I would say that we don't just put people on the debarment list. The state of Ohio likes to work with you and make sure that we can come to a resolve, to make sure to meet the contract needs and so forth. But I know someone asked about the map. And this is where the cooperative purchasing, this is kind of what the political subdivisions participate in for us to be able to assist them. The map links to this new one. What this is a co-op members list. And as I mentioned, you can, instead of the counties, they're listed here by names instead of just a map. So I kind of forgot that transition this past week. But instead of the map, you can actually type in keywords. Active, let's say, if I can learn how to spell. And it'll sort based upon schools. If you're looking for specific schools that would be benefiting from this particular widget, or fire departments, you can pull back all the counties that have the word fire in it. You can review that. Maybe there's a specific service that you can help provide to them. So it's a great resource for you to be able to look through that to help expand your marketing and your outreach, selling your goods and services. Again, back on the home page, we talked about the bidders and suppliers. This is part of your toolkit, I'll call it, where you can get more information about selling to the state, the details of certification programs, other available forms, accessing Ohio buys. If you're looking for training, we'll just jump in there real quick because what we left off on. We do have webinars that we provide, as I showed, that we'll pick back up in June. We also have video overviews that we're currently reviewing and updating to the new system that we're going to be using. We also have learner guides and job aids, a very extensive list of task-related, step-by-step, screen by screen on how to complete a process. We have FAQs, and also, you know, I've thrown a lot of words around. You may hear a lot of words in some of the material. There's also a glossary for procurement terms and how they could impact you. And I'm just gonna click on the videos really quick. Now these videos these are our YouTube videos. So it just pops up in a YouTube window and you're able to watch that short little videos that kind of walks through on how to report, accessing and navigating for new bidders. If you just want to watch someone do it. But on the flip side, and the breadcrumbs here at the top are able to do that. You can either just use the learner guides or the job aids. Up here at the top is where we keep all of our learner guides. This is the holistic one. This is just specific to responding and viewing those solicitations, and then managing contracts that once you become a bidder supplier that has a contract on file. So you can look at any particular task, whether that's how to respond to a specific type of solicitation, how to acknowledge a purchase order once it's been sent to you, a whole host of opportunities to look at specific tasks. And when you open up the job aids, they open up on the screen, and they are step by step by step, detailing what necessary to do, what not to do. So that helps provide a successful transaction going through the process. Now, some of these are very detailed, to help guide you through that, to make sure that you're getting all of the information populated on the transaction so that you can have successful transaction. And this one is responding to that, putting the document information, downloading it, putting in the information in the fields, walking step by step through that. So these are updated too. Every time we have a version, we update this actual document. It isn't these if they're on here, the most up-to-date transaction steps that we have. So now if you download this, if you're a person that likes to have paper and all you have to do is hit the print button, but be mindful that once you print it, as we say in training, it's out of date because all it takes is someone to change a screen or change something that you reference, a document that you have in your hand that may be 3 months old, may not be how the system is functioning. You may be having trouble trying to figure that out because the two don't match up. So definitely encourage you to keep an eye on your versioning control that we do provide up here in the top right corner of all of our documents. So version 2.6, and we updated it May 2022. So nothing else is new since May to this particular document. You can have confidence in that.
James, before you
Yes.
go to the next screen, I think this person's question kind of aligns with what you have up, and how to respond to a solicitation. The rest wants to know what requirements are necessary for me to accept a solicitation on Ohio Buys. For example, do I need to show previous sales of an item requested, or can I sell anything as long as I have it?
It's a great question. And I will answer with this is that we're not looking for previous information. We do the due diligence on bids. Let's say you do submit a bid and you've had previous negative sales. Let's just take that perspective. And that's kind of where that debarment list comes up. We would check the debarment list to make sure that in the past, your past actions, we would take that into account. No, you don't have to show us detailed sales. That's kind of where the responsible and responsive bidder falls into place, where if you're not able to be able to respond and provide during that bid, that that is something that can be held against you with a debarment or a cancellation of a contract. But as long as you have it, as you said, you should submit a bid response to that. And I don't think anyone is looking to do bad business with the state. We're trying to make sure that we give you the right information so you can do great business with the state. And again, the state will definitely, if there are any snags in the process, we'll definitely work through that to make sure we can have a positive resolve to that. But to your question, I think that submitting a bid, being responsive and being responsible through that process is what we look for. I hope that helps.
Thank you. He said yes.
Yeah, excellent. So easily hitting the back button on the browser when you're in there, going back and forth. Now you may have your browser set up to open different tabs every single time, but you can have multiple windows open. But I will tell you, when you are submitting those bids, and if you look up here at the top, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tabs open. And let's say that if anyone's been in a website where you've logged in with security, every time your browser is set up to open another tab like this up top, that you may run into an error when submitting solicitations. So we like to tell everyone, when you do submit a bid, minimize the number of tabs that you have open and operate the bids within one tab. Because as you do work in this window and you click a link, another tab opens, our system times out for security purposes. So this tab has an 18-minute window. This tab that you created and opened up ties to this one, but once this times out, the data that you have here doesn't go back and populate the system. So we've had suppliers and bidders putting responses into bids, and they have multiple windows open, and they're unable to submit bids at the time of the deadline. So keep that in mind when you're responding to those bids, looking at, try to stay within one tab. That way you can ensure that the window time is specific to where you're at. Hope that makes sense. It's something we're seeing. I think it's just the way the browsers are set up. Mine is set up to open a tab every time I click a link to go here. You can turn that off to be on this one window. So keep that in mind if you're looking to respond, to have minimal windows, if possible, just the one, and operate in Ohio bias. But let's go back here. Do you need to be registered with SAM to register with the state? Shonda, is that?
Yes, I can answer. No, the System for Award Management, also known as SAM, is the vendor portal where federal vendors. So if you're doing business with the federal government, that's the vendor portal, especially if you're a prime, if you're going to have a direct contract with the federal agency, then SAM is where you need to be registered. You do not need that for the state of Ohio. Great question.
Yeah, definitely. So again, being comfortable with where you as a bidder and or a supplier are coming to get information. Now, like I mentioned earlier, these 3 tiles are the 3 most visited tiles that we've had up to date. So public solicitations and contracts takes you to this window, kind of gives you some information about the search, kind of gives you more information about, like I mentioned, Department of Transportation, additional small scale construction opportunities, etc. But over here on the right, you have a couple options. You can launch the state contracts or the public solicitation. So I'm just going to click that. And by doing that, that takes you right here. And you don't have to have your profile logged in to be able to see this. I'm logged in as just a normal public citizen in Ohio or anywhere that internet has capability to access this. And some of the, we talked about it earlier, how to search this. We're giving you everything to put filters on. So if you're looking, you're just interested in MBE set aside, let's say, you can just click yes, and then hit the search. It'll filter all this out into just MBE set asides. So if you have your certification and you're looking at those opportunities, maybe it's a commodity that you don't have, you can do that. Or you can just go up here and hit the reset button, and you want to type in janitorial. By typing in keyword, it'll bring back these 4 results. And what you can see here, there's an invitation to bid. It'll tell you the begin date, end date. As you can see, it's expired. You can filter this out as well. And there's 2, and each solicitation status is provided. So what you can see here, this one's currently, it came down on the 16th. It's currently under evaluation. So you'll know that it'll still be up there to see. Now open for bidding here at DRC, Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. They have an RFQ. So they're looking for janitorial services. And as you can see, edit, again, edit doesn't mean you're going to change anything. It's just what the coding on our site says. So when you click the button, the icon, what it's going to do is going to open up that specific solicitation. And as you can see, our I can't talk now. Participate in RFX is not highlighted because we're not logged in, and it does tell you that you need to log in or register to participate in this RFX. So you can look at it from just any public view if you're just interested in doing some searches. You can see what lot it is. Maybe this is the second round. What happens sometimes if you see rounds is that inquiries may have caused the solicitation to change. The agency didn't put enough information that was provided in the summary to help give enough information to the suppliers to be able to answer properly, to get what we're looking for. As you can see here, there's a call out, a site visit. Certain summaries include the notification of a site visit. In this particular one, you have to show up on March 23rd at 10 a.m. to be able to participate in the actual solicitation. So that's what they wanted in that process. You can see the questions down here. People were looking for additional information to help provide that clarification and what they can actually do. Over here on the right, we do have additional documentation that helps you. There's a affirmation disclosure form that's required. There's instructions to the terms and conditions. There's executive orders that people can read and review that associate with this particular solicitation. You can download all that information. You can just, it's your personal preference. But again, going through it, reviewing each document, if it needs to be completed, making sure that you're doing that to be able to submit that. So, and return, or anytime you see Ohio Buys, once you're in there, if you just click on Ohio Buys, it takes us back to the homepage where we started. Again, you can log in here, or like we talked about public contracts, if you're looking for, I think Trey's question earlier, or is it media services? You can easily come in here, type in a keyword, and look for potential contracts that are available. As you can see, here's a decent amount. You can look at where they're actually, what organizations have those. You can look at, yep. Yes, you're able to see that. And then you can come down here. Let's see, didn't even have a lottery one. You can search them. I imagine there's a lot in here. I didn't know Department of Health. A lot of media opportunities again. But what you can do is look at the effective date of the contract and the end date. There's going to be some contracts that, like this one in particular, ends in June 30th, 2023. So there's going to be opportunities coming along with those. So I would suggest searching for that. Same thing as wellness, as we talked about. One particular one, there is a program right now, workers' comp. The end date is in June as well. So they may be looking at reposting this. It depends on, but I think it's a good way to look at that, using the keywords to search within the contracts that help you identify opportunities that do exist sometime in the future, if you're not getting notifications on that. And what you could do, for instance, if you're looking at that, you can click on the pencil here as well, and that'll open up the current contract, and you can get additional information regarding that, the effective dates, any additional information that you would like to use to inquire. You could look at, and again, this is all public information. This isn't something behind a firewall that you have to have a security pass to get to. This is all information that you have access to. And sometimes you can look at the price lists that helps you understand, like, oh, they're offering that widget particular for $1 cheaper than what I was thinking I could do. So it helps you give perspective of how the opportunity, the competitive process is for you. So I'm gonna go back here. Another opportunity is the public catalog. Now this takes all of the items that we have and puts them in here. You can just look up an item. Let's say you're looking for, it looks like here, printed media like blink signs, or a whole host of options of items in there. You can search and then get the details on that. It tells you the unit of measure, how they've packaged that, whether it's a lot, whether it's a each or an item or a box or a dozen or a pallet. All those are identified, and when the price that's associated with that as well. So it helps you, again, to have some better idea how to market that for the next opportunity that comes your way. And then again, we have Ohio Pays here, because once you're a supplier receiving payments, you have to, and those things, you have to be able to access that. So, but this is our landing page. Like I said, copy, I'll drop that in the chat. That way, you can actually save that as well. You can come straight here, go to public solicitations, look for those opportunities, or by saving the procureohio.gov website, you can have all your resources here on this site as well. Again, I think those are two great websites to have stored, so you can actually see those items. Now, I did mention earlier about reaching out to the agency procurement officers. There are procurement contacts that you can go to on our About Procurement page, and that'll identify agency contacts, those people within the specific particular areas. And then we've got, let's see here. So additional, if there's any, again, this is public information, that if you have any questions and additional procurement services, you can look for other groups with construction, IT enterprises, other areas that would fall into those contacts. So Ohio buys bidder and supplier training. Again, a lot of great resources that help you through this transition of being comfortable with Ohio buys, being able to use it effectively to place your bids and be able to be notified of opportunities. I know some of these links are already in the presentation, but I was going to drop those in there in the chat too, while we have them available. This is the holistic learner guide for all the bidder and supplier steps. As you can see, we've most recently published it in January. So we're going to be going through, and it is in version 4.8. So we continually make updates and edit this and provide an up-to-date resource for you to use on the web at your fingertips. And easy as going through the document, if you click on a blue link, it jumps right to the section. You don't have to scroll through it. You can look at those headers and then jump down through that process. All right, that covers a lot of the website, a lot of the important links I wanted to show you. Are there any questions regarding the website or other general how to do business with the state questions that anyone may have, would like to ask?
I don't see any questions, but there could be in between now and by the time we finish. So we'll encourage everybody to type them in the chat.
And like I said, the resources, additional resource links, all the links in the presentation take you to those specific areas that we talked about. And we do have a webinar coming up in June, even though it's April next week. June feels like it'll be here in a couple weeks. We've been pretty busy with this adoption and improving Ohio buys consistently to have the best tool available for you as suppliers and bidders to be able to participate. So please get registered, utilize those functions to help you on your procurement journey.
Okay, we do have a question here from Daniel. Does the state of Ohio support university, hospital, or other healthcare facilities using Ohio buys and also require an Ohio ID registration?
Let's say, I know for the Ohio State University is a public entity. They utilize some of our purchasing system, but they have their own contracts. They don't post anything in there. So it would go through their own site for any contractual opportunities and other facilities. There are no hospitals on our boards and commissions. They're kind of a separate side of the state agency world. They are state, but they are also they don't, the boards and commissions, I think too as well. Next couple of years as we onboard them, there might be an opportunity, but right now we don't include any state sponsored hospitals other than the mental health and addiction services, maybe DYS, Department of Youth Services as well, but that's just in their own agency and facility. But they wouldn't require an OHID. At this time.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. I can turn it back to you, Shonda. I think if anybody has any more questions, just drop them in the chat and we can address them as we're wrapping up.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, James. As always, you provide a thorough presentation. And I always love that you always go to the website and make it kind of interactive to actually kind of demonstrate where people are going to be going. So thank you for that. Tons of great information. for you to do business with the state of Ohio. So thank you again. Just some closing kind of remarks as we wrap up. You do have questions, you may want to type it in the chat really quickly. Today's webinar, the next webinar that we have every Wednesday, with the exception of the first week of April, we do have webinars, and one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So our next webinar in our series of webinars for preparing you for the Ohio Business Matchmaker is actually this afternoon from 1 to 3. So it's going to be on the state of Ohio certification. So that MBE Edge, the veteran certification, the woman certification, and also they'll be addressing the financial incentive programs. So that's today from 1 to 3. And then April 12th, the next webinar will be on legislative and regulatory updates, the SBA small business contracting programs at 10 o'clock. And then at 1 o'clock, the SBA mentor protege program. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording link will be posted to the Matchmaker site as well as the Ohio University Apex Accelerator site. It usually takes a couple of days for the webinar to be finalized. So probably by next week, that will be posted. Also, the slides will be posted as well. So you should be able to go to the Ohio Business Matchmaker website to get the slides, also the Ohio University Apex website. I could post that in the chat. Joey, if you have that. Also, if you want to register, the Ohio Business Matchmaker this year is going to be April 3rd and 4th. Not April, May 3rd and 4th in Dayton at the Nutter Center, Wright Center, Nutter Center, May 3rd and 4th. 2 great days. There is the webinar for you to go and register not only for the Matchmaker event, but also once you get on the site, there's a tab for you to register for the webinars. Lauren has a question. Will we get a notification when they are posted? No, what I would recommend is it'll probably take about a week for it to get posted. So if you want to check back by next Wednesday. So the webinar from last Wednesday should be there. There we are. So if you can go ahead, Joey just posted the website for the Ohio Apex Accelerator at Ohio University. So if you want to click on that link, you should be able to access the webinar from last week, which was making the most of the Matchmaker, showing you how to navigate the Matchmaker or how to prepare for it. So you should be able to get the video for that. And then if you can check back next week for this one. So it takes about a week for it to get finalized. And then also the slide should be there as well. All right. I believe that's it. Again, thank you so much, James. You always provide such a wonderful presentation and a wealth of information that you provide to our small businesses. I want to thank again the Apex Accelerators and then all of our wonderful resource partners, the Minority Business Assistance Center, the State of Ohio Department of Administrative Services, the Department, ODOD, Department of Development, Ohio Department of Development, our MBACs, Minority Business Assistance Centers, and SBDC, Small Business Development Centers, all of the wonderful partners that help us put on the Ohio Business Matchmaker. We thank you for your time today and have a wonderful day. Looks like the sun is coming out here in Columbus, and hopefully you can join us this afternoon at 1 o'clock for our next webinar. And then the rest of our webinars leading up to the Matchmaker, and then definitely May 3rd and 4th in Dayton at the Nutter Center. Thanks again for your time. Have a great day. All right, goodbye.